Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your co-host and co-founder of the Creative Birth Strategy House and podcast here on Clubhouse. So we'll get started here in the next couple of minutes. We've got another great discussion of education, networking, and strategy, building a foundation in real estate. So give me just a couple of minutes. We'll get some people invited in, and we'll get rocking and rolling. And give me one second here. All righty. So let's share this out. Invite some peoples in. What a great week going into the holiday weekend of President's Day. Very excited about this. We'll get a complete update on our discussions on education, strategy, and networking. I want to thank our sponsors, as always, Lenmark Capital, our nationwide asset-based lender, where I'm a senior loan analyst. I'd like to thank MB Capital Solutions, where I'm a referral partner, providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals nationwide. I'd like to also thank Realty 411 with Linda Pelagas, a national publication, also providing national events throughout the country for real estate professionals and services. And then I want to thank Mr. Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, who provides our education, our support to this podcast, video, graphic art, social media architecture. He is now providing a package program for brokers to set up themselves on having the right promotional advertising for themselves when brokering loans as a white label marketing. So let's get rocking and rolling here in just a couple of minutes. I'll invite a couple peoples in and just taking a minute here, just getting myself together. All righty. All right. So update this week. Been seeing a lot of DSCR, been seeing a lot of fixed to rent. Officially post Super Bowl, we are now in the spring market. You can call what it is, but we are right in the midst of the spring market right now, going into March, April, May. So right now, you see real estate professionals revving up opportunities either to fix to rent or fix to flip and identifying opportunities in blight. And inventory is moving up. So let's first go over some of the economic trends and predictions for 2025. And I want to thank everybody that's following me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. We're posting these polls out ahead of time for people to vote, also read articles that we're posting related to the podcast. So if you're not seeing them, get onto LinkedIn, all right? And follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn so you can see these polls that we are putting out there in front of you to vote on and give your thoughts to. So the economic forecast of 2025, and I'm going to stick with just single family through four family. The housing market for single family to four family investments are expected to experience modest growth amid a complex economic environment. Okay, so we got some home price sales, some moderate price growth, maybe about 3.5%. I think sales volume will increase about 2% over the year. I think mortgage rates will stabilize going into maybe the third quarter. We're starting to see some stabilization now. We get to see what Doge and the presidential elect cabinet starts really peeling the onion and see what's going on there. But all indicators are showing that rates can level down to about 6% over the year, enhancing affordability and stimulating both new construction and demand for existing homes. Now, some rental market dynamics. Rent increases. I think reports are showing a decline in apartment rents are nearing an end, with a shift in favoring landlords expected later in 2025. High mortgage rates and unaffordable home ownership are leading to longer rental periods and increasing demand for rental properties. Vacancy rates, average vacancy rate will reach about 4.9% by 2025, with an average annual rent growth of about 2.6. Some construction inventory stats, single family starts. I think we're going to see about 1 million units in 2025, reflecting a stable outlook. Multifamily development is expected to rise starting in late 25. It's indicating an increase through 2026 as financing costs decline. Now, again, big thoughts of out-of-state landlording. Cities like Dallas, Miami, Houston, Tampa Bay, St. Pete's, Nashville are highlighted as attractive markets for investors due to the robust population growth, economic opportunities, and favorable rental yields. So that's some thoughts on some trends there. Let's talk about some key economic trends. We need to keep an eye on the interest rate shifts. We need to keep an eye on inflation. It is not going away. They're working very hard at it. Where I think it bumped up a little bit, but I think it's gonna recede a little bit. But the market's already reacting to it. There's definitely going to be liquidity challenges in 25, and navigating a complex landscape marked by stabilized interest rates and ongoing inflationary pressures and emerging liquidity challenges. This you need to stay adaptable and vigilant to these evolving macroeconomic conditions. So these are some of the articles that we put out. Rates leveled off around 7% this past week. You're definitely seeing a different investor coming off the sidelines. Um, I'm excited because I really see a unique opportunity for the newer investor to jump in on a single family through four family. And I think this discussion, strategies in building a foundation in real estate investing, I think is very important right now. I mean, you really need to uh, build a solid foundation with a blend of education, strategic planning, and hands-on experience is key. Educating yourself and defining your investment goals, I think, are two most important factors when it comes to bringing a foundation, and then choosing the right real estate investment strategy. I get a kick out of some of these newer investors that say, hey, I'm going to go buy a multifamily property, and they don't even own a single family through four family. Look at buy and hold, look at fix and flip, look at midterm rentals and short-term rentals, and the BRRRR strategy. I don't think the BRRRR strategy is going away. I think it's very present. And research your market, understanding your local property values, rental demand, economic trends, analyzing neighborhood growth and potential in job markets, researching areas with strong rental demand and upcoming developments and property tax trends. And then always think about building your team. Your team of experts are key. I mean, you can't get more if you're not going to be successful without the right team. And then ultimately securing the right financing. Are you financeable from a regulated Fannie Freddie perspective comparatively to the asset based lending space? I see 70% of the investment to 80% of the investment financing over the next year or two diving into asset based lending. I'm seeing more people that are not aware of it getting aware of it and analyzing your deals thoroughly. We do offer an asset-based lending course every month in different areas throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania currently. Get to one of them. Learn how to underwrite your deals. Learn how to price your deals out. Learn how to make sure that you understand what you're looking at and taking action and managing and optimizing. And then obviously looking to scale and diversify. Let's start off with Mr. Joseph Martella. Good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a foundation in real estate.
Good morning, Joe. My name is Joseph Martella. I invest in tax liens, do some private lending. I also am a buy and hold investor with a full-time job. So I have several units. I also have one unit in New Jersey, and I also have one unit that's out of state. Building a foundation is extremely important when it comes to real estate investing, and it has so many meanings to that, right? Whether it goes to your education level, or it goes to, you like to call it a power team, right, Joe? Where you have a professionals that you work with, right, and getting yourself set up for success. I didn't have that when I first started out in 2006, and 2008 came, and I didn't know who to turn to, who to talk to, and I got absolutely crushed. Now I'm back in the game, and I've come back much stronger and better than what I am because I took a lot of time educating myself. I'm definitely going to say part of your foundation is education, and not necessarily going and paying these gurus tens of thousands of dollars. Absolutely not. There's tons and tons of information both on YouTube and in books that you can read that you can draw this information. There's a ton of real estate investors associations out there now that you can easily find paid and free. So I would definitely start going to those and getting that foundation built the way you could start building upon it.
Joe, you brought up a very good point. I mean, is the RIA concept dead? I mean, where are you seeing this? I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. Are you seeing better education being provided at these smaller investor groups independently from the RIAs? And are the RIAs still in that sell-a-thon mindset? I mean, where are we with this whole thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and the answer is with everything in life, it depends, right? And I'll talk about the RIA that I belong to and a board member of specifically. Like I would say the main meetings can be a sellathon, right? They're going to bring a national speaker in because those are how the RIAs survive. They get a piece of the action on the products that are made. But then there are subgroups or focus groups, they like to call them now. A fancier term, uh, where I think you really can get a real good understanding, and you get some of the real investors that go there. You're not just getting the newbies that learn. You're getting the people that actually want to go. Number one, they want to learn themselves, but they want to also give back. Like that's exactly what I do with Marcus. Um, we have our own subgroup where we're sharing our own experiences. It's all free. It's included your $150 a year membership, and you're giving out phone numbers and you're making connections. Um, we've had several deals done now where wholesalers came, they announced their deals, and we vetted them, and it was good to go. So, and people are making money. So, I mean, yeah, reals aren't dead, but then these the other groups that are popping up. And a lot of the turnoff is like a newbie investor is going to say, "Why am I going to pay $150 for the year?" When number one, it's a lot. It's very cheap. 150 a year. What is it like $12.50 a month? It's really cheap. But I mean, some readers just aren't worth it, right? They only have one meeting a month, and you're not getting the bang for your buck. But the smaller groups, there's a lot of networking, right? I've gone to them. I've met you there at a couple of them, and it's a lot more geared towards networking. But those smaller groups that are free, I've met some of the speakers, and I would be cautious on the advice that you get because they're not really backed by any specific entity, right? Um, so that's kind of where I stand with all of that, Joe.
I've been to a couple of events this past week, barring the wonderful weather we are having up in the Northeast post the Super Bowl. And I can tell you, it's definitely a different speed when you're in a room of 25 to 75 people. I went to an event in Delaware County, and there was about 30 people there, and I hadn't been there in over 8 years. And it was a wonderful experience meeting with people, Joe, and then networking, and then good subject matter. And then everybody went back to the bar and networked and everything like that. And then Wednesday, I was in Lehigh Valley and hosted my own event with elite deal makers. And we had about 15, 20 people because the weather was a little rough. But you know what? Everybody sat down. We put the discussion out in the middle, masterminded, interacted. Everybody felt really well balanced. Um, and then we did the Elite Deal Makers in Philadelphia with Albert Strobel this past week, where it was like 35 of us. And everybody sat down, everybody was participating, everybody was involved, everybody walked away. I had to kind of like turn the lights off to get people to leave. I think very relevant to what you do at Dinners and Deals. And then I capped off the week meeting with a client of mine and colleague up in Rochester, New York, at the Rochester RIA, and they were adamant about not being in a sell-a-thon mode. Very educationally based, very nice people. I mean, everybody I engaged with was really nice, salt of the earth. It was definitely worth the ride up, and obviously I'm considering membership there as well because I like being around good people and humble people that want to just talk to you about strategy. So, Joe, with your dinners and deals, are you seeing that as the new way of educating oneself and getting people comfortable to strategize to building out that foundation?
Yeah, well, with dinner and deals, that concept it's geared more towards right. We started naming it a mastermind, right? It's geared more towards you, right? Whereas the traditional RIAs and the traditional focus groups have one speaker, um, whether they're selling something or they're a business affiliate where they're selling insurance or what have you, is a whole nother story. But it's one speaker and it's a topic that you're interested in. They're yakking at you for about an hour and a half, and then it's time to go. With the mastermind concept, it's like, hey, what's stopping you from getting your first deal? And in that method, you're calling out the newbies, you're forcing them to speak, which is uncomfortable. But hey, if you're going to invest in real estate, you're going to have to speak. You're going to have to speak to strangers. You're going to have to talk to people who are not like-minded than you. If you're looking at doing wholesaling, you're going to have your elevator speech. You're going to have to, learn to use your voice and brain all at the same time, which is definitely intimidating. But I think it forces people to speak. It forces people to really realize what they're trying to accomplish and where their shortfalls are, and it makes it realize, hey, I didn't die on this conversation. Like it's not so scary having that conversation. So, and then there's just general questions, right? And there's people of all different levels, right? We had someone with 600 plus units that came to that meeting, and they both learned and contributed to the group. So, I mean, it is definitely a good way of I just think connecting investors, right, and kind of mentoring them through that conversation and getting individuals to know one another.
Joe, thank you. It's always a being on here. Joe was actually the officially first podcast with me on the Creative Birth Strategies podcast last year. So pretty excited about that. We're getting nearing close to 100th podcast now at this point. So you can find us on creativebirthstrategiespodcast.com. And, as you get more involved with real estate investing, you're quickly finding that there's plenty of opportunities for those who are ready to take advantage of them. Whether you're navigating a complex market or negotiating a high stakes deal or identifying properties with potential, preparation ensures that you equip to gain the insider's edge and making informed decisions, and goes beyond doing just your homework. It's about mastering the art of being ready for anything. Bob, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, building a foundation in real estate.
Hey, good morning, Joe. I'm Bob Chesick, president of Chespin Corporation, helping people set up LLCs and corporations. I'm not here to give any legal advice today. And from my side of the equation, where I'm helping people set up the business structures that will be the engine behind the deals, and as we've talked about in this room previously, a lot of the deals have to be basically have to be set up with the loans and everything go through LLCs and whatnot. The biggest things that I've seen is basically people they're leaping before they're looking. I don't know any other way to put it. Where a lot of people come to me and they're like, okay, well, I already have like 7 properties and I took out a bunch of personal loans on those properties, and now I want to put everything in an LLC. It's like, okay, well, did you take out commercial loans or personal loans? Oh, they're personal loans. Okay, well, you might not be able to move the deed into an LLC because you're going to have to refinance as a commercial loan. So you need to figure that out with your lender first before you set up the structure. And just I always seem to get called where they're coming in to play catch up. So building the foundation is going to these different events, learning about what's required. There's going to be there's people that think, oh, I got to get this deal. This is what's going to get me in and get everything going. Hey, maybe that works for you. That's great. But if you're always playing catch up, you're always going to be behind, and it's always going to eat up more of your money at a later date to fix everything than it would be to do everything right the first time. And yes, you're going to have a lot of things that are going to come up you don't realize. Repairs to the properties, problems with tenants. All these things are going to come together. But let me kind of put this into perspective and bring it all home. Without getting too into detail on the business side of what I do, one of the largest registered agents in the world just acquired one of the other largest registered agents in the world. So the cost of corporate compliance, such as getting a registered agent and having someone set up LLCs, corporations, that cost is about to increase substantially because the competition globally has just been cut. I'm going to avoid saying much more about that until another time. But suffice it to say, these compliance costs are going up. States are raising fees. They're adding disclosure reports, all this stuff. And failure to comply with it can result in your LLC getting shut down and your limited liability shield getting pierced. Now, where's this all come into real estate? Simple. One of my customers this week doing one of our due diligence search, and it was a real estate investor in Pennsylvania, just found out that they had a default judgment not against their LLC, but against them personally, because the tenant of a property sued the landlord. Landlord did not have an up-to-date registered agent or principal business office on file with the Secretary of State. The sheriff's deputy could not, the sheriff's deputy or the constable could not serve the business. So they refiled the lawsuit under the person's individual name, that then sent a certified letter to the address that was on file, which was grossly out of date. A default judgment was entered, and then the constable showed up at their house to tag items for sheriff's sale because they lost a judgment for several $100,000, and the sheriff in their home was there to collect the money from them personally. And now it's too late. Their house is going up for auction, and several other possessions have been seized. Game over. This is what happens when you don't build the proper foundation. You can get burned really quickly. And again, this was something that fell off our radar because it wasn't the business that got sued, it was the individual. And again, they didn't keep the correct information up to date with the Pennsylvania Secretary of State. So be warned, folks. You need to when you get your foundations in place, you want to make sure that you have the legal structure, the tax structure. You want to have the attorney and the accountant in place, a registered agent if you need one, and everything, and all the other details that you need to get in place to make sure that when you put that first deal down, you have an ironclad, bulletproof structure. Joe, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Bob. You know, it makes me think about when somebody asks me, hey, what do I do first when I'm starting out in real estate investing? And I ask them real basic questions. What's your credit like? Well, I don't know. Well, then how do you expect me to know? So if you don't know what your credit score is, you need to be a study of your credit score, really understanding credit score and what its impact looks like. Let's be honest. You want to be 700 and above. Let's just cut the crap and get it right out of the way. I mean, if you're 680, I don't care why you're at 680, get it to above 700. And then why don't you have an LLC established? As you know, asset-based lending is now the backbone to real estate investing nationwide in the United States. Okay, so you're over 700 score, you have an LLC. Say you have some money that you saved and you put away to put together toward investing. That's great. That's liquid assets, but that can disappear in 30 seconds. Why aren't you looking to create unsecured business lines of credit to leverage up and above the liquid assets? Because you could burn through liquid assets really quick with down payment, closing costs, unforeseen expenses. You want to be prepared. You want to understand your reserve base, what your financial exposure is going to look like. Then you got to hire a good bookkeeper, then a good CPA, a good attorney, and start building out that team slowly. Most likely, your bookkeeper, your CPA, your lawyer probably will know a good investor-friendly real estate agent that might even be an investor themselves that can give you some guidance. Or maybe you should consider becoming a licensed agent yourself and look from the inside out. That's what's happening right now in this market. Investors are becoming the agents and taking the equation out of the way of chasing somebody down to work for them or represent them. This NAR lawsuit was the best thing that ever happened to real estate investing, not for the real estate agent, but for the real estate investor. And these are just some thoughts just to start off on building a foundation for yourself. Travis, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, building a foundation in real estate.
Hey, Morning, Joe, and everybody. I'm Travis. I'm a real estate broker down here in the Houston, Texas market. Been doing this now since let's see, I bought my second house in 2002 when Enron went under.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I did just what you just said, Joe. When I was first buying property, I'd call the listing agent, or I had a realtor mama. I would call her. She was like a mama to me, who would help me buy homes. And then I was like telling my wife, hey, why don't you get your license? Because I don't know why I'm paying these people, because I'm doing all the work. And anyway, she never did. So I went and did it. And it only took me, at that time, this was 2006, I think it took me like 3 weeks online doing the classes. So it was very simple and easy if you know how to take tests and, study at a very high pace. Anyway, it might be harder now. I don't know, but it was worth it. After that, I started buying properties without anybody else. So it was a good thing. So that's a great way to get started. Go take the real estate courses online, get your classes done, go take the test for your state and the national exam, and, join up with some other people that have been investing for a while that can help you through the process. Or you can learn it the hard way and get your bumps and bruises like I did. You'll eventually learn what not to do and what to do. When I jumped on, I heard Bob talking, and where I got in, he said something about you can't deed a property that's in your personal name to an LLC. Well, I don't know. I've done it, so I don't know why you can't. It's pretty simple to go to an attorney and say, hey, I want to deed this from me to my LLC. It's just one piece of paper that they create, and you file it with the county clerk's office. So, it doesn't change your mortgage or anything, but it's now in the name of the LLC. So
it could call the loan, Travis. So if you change it from your personal name and without informing your lender, they could call the loan because of the change of personal to LLC. And if they don't allow it, yeah, so you might want to, I have so many people that say, oh, I got a rate at 3.75. Why would I want to refinance into the LLC? Well, I don't know what to tell you. You should have did the loan in the LLC in the first place. Or, you house hacked and 10 years ago and you got this great rate. But at the end of the day, if you want that out of your personal name, you're never going to get that truly out of your personal name unless you drastically refinance that into a LLC loan or business loan to remove it from your name altogether. That's where Bob was going with, because it could trigger the due on sale close or the calling of the loan. Bob, go ahead real quick.
And to follow up, Travis, I don't know how much of the story you caught where where I had a client that ultimately got sued personally, despite the fact the property was in the LLC. They got the default judgment. When their attorneys got involved, they realized that the judgment would have gone through even if they had responded, because they did exactly what you just described. They had a personal loan against the property. The property was transferred to an LLC, so that was deemed under PA law, that was deemed piercing the corporate veil. So by doing that, they actually they basically made the LLC effectively useless.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but just the fact that you can do it. Yes, they could call the loan. They won't.
Yeah,
I've called the lenders and said, hey, I'm buying this guy's house subject to, and I want to let you know, and they don't care. They're just servicing the loan.
It's a tricky slope. It's a tricky slope.
I've never seen it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I've seen it happen multiple times.
Well, listen, I'm going to play devil's advocate. And Travis, I think you're right. And I think, Bob, you're right. I think it all depends. Okay.
Yeah.
If you hit the bee's nest too hard, you're going to get stung. So
right.
I think this subject to piece, funny enough, Travis, I'm actually creating a CE course on subject to. It's a tricky slope. I'm more concerned about lawsuits down the road because of poor misleadings. And I don't think that's the way for a new investor to get involved with, because it's very technical and and you need to have money to be able to retain an attorney and have all process. Somebody like yourself that's owned properties, been in the business, been transactional, I feel like you could facilitate or foresee potential problems more so than a newer investor. I mean, that's my thought. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. Especially now that we have these new Dodd-Frank rules and everything. And I went to a class last year actually on this whole subject of subject to and all the changes that the Dodd-Frank law put on sellers that do seller financing. And one of the things that was eye-opening to me that I didn't know was the fact that if you're selling a property and you're selling it with seller financing and you're an investor, you're not the home, it's not your primary residence that you're selling. Well, you can't do a wrap. That's not allowed. I mean, not a wrap. You can't do a balloon. You can't do a balloon note. That's not allowed anymore. So if you're selling your personal residence and you want to do it with seller financing, yes, you can do a balloon. But investors, nope, can't do it. So that was really surprising to me. So it has to be, it has to be on a normal term, like 15, 30-year AM, and no balloon. And what was the other thing I was just going to say? Oh, it has to be a reasonable interest rate. So you can't go, say, okay, I'm going to charge you 18% when, a normal person with like a 600 credit score could get a much lower rate, right? It has to be in line with whatever the rates are. So there's definitely some things that people have to be educated on if they're going to do that kind of sale.
Yeah, I agree with you. And listen, I want to move with this a little bit. I am a sponsor of Sub 2 events. I love the creativity of the events. I still warn people, listen, be cautious, because, somebody that needs a Sub 2 scenario obviously has other things going on other than the mortgage themselves. I mean, it's just not as easy and clean as one would say. And there's always moving parts. That's what I'm telling people, because at the end of the day, you're going to need a mortgage eventually on the exit of whatever you're doing. Because if somebody's willing to deed over a property to you, what else is going on? What is going on with the title? What is going on with their personal life? you know, uh, 2 3 years down the road, they see that you're making a lot of money on the deal. Can they countersue you? There's a lot of moving parts. And Travis, I think you would agree with me, correct?
I do agree with you. And I can tell you right now, I've got one that I sold to a general contractor that I know 5 years ago. And now, the, the balloon payment's due.
Yeah.
So it was due last month, and I've just contacted that attorney's office that I went for that class. Say, okay, give me my options now. I don't really want to foreclose on them. I mean, I think it's kind of harsh, but I could. I mean, I could foreclose on them if they're not going to pay off the mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Travis. I do look forward to another picture of a good piece of steak very soon. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that.
Sorry, man.
Okay. I've been missing one. So let's move this train along. Let's talk about some of the pros of building a real estate portfolio. Obviously, potential passive income, property value appreciation, diversification, tangible assets, tax advantages, leveraging opportunities, and hedging against inflation, and controlling over investments. Stephen, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, building a foundation in real estate.
Hey, Joe, thanks. This is Steve with our homepage. I'm an investor. I'm a realtor. I'm also a wholesaler with the fund new change in Pennsylvania law. That's been interesting the last few weeks. And it's funny, I actually had someone come up to me at the meetup last Wednesday in Mountaintop who has a bunch of properties in her own name. Pretty much, as we would like to say, did everything wrong going into the door. And she's like, what do I do? And I said, okay, here's Bob's contact information. If you want to give him a call, And, she did ask, or we mentioned trust bubbles and possibly putting the property in trust and moving it around. So that may be an interesting topic for Bob to talk about at some point, is whether that gets you around to do on sale clause the way some of us believe it might. But basically, the biggest foundation, for me, comes down to your education and your team. And don't forget with your education, the physical understanding of the buildings. When I first bought, yes, it's great to have. First of all, I agree with whoever said your realtor isn't always the most knowledgeable one. We are not trained as investors coming out of the licensing classes. And if you just go to the cute little realtor that you think you like and she's friendly, that's how I bought my first and third buildings, and that's how those two buildings turned out to be my worst investments. But also get your hands dirty. Take the real estate class, even if you don't want to get your license. Understand what the rules are. There's a group in Bloomsburg, NETI, some Northeast Training Institute. They have a weekend class or a one-day class called Building Inspections for Landlords, and they have a disaster house built in their garage, all the failures they saw. And you get to understand what's a bad septic look like, what's this, what's that. What I'm saying is, don't just keep your training to the math, to the theory, to the book learning, to the RIAs, all of which are wonderful and important. But understand the physical reality too, because what you see in every house in Northeast PA that becomes common after a while, for example, when you go to the NETI training class, you're like, holy cow, I had seen that so often I had no idea it was a bad thing. And then at least when your contractors are talking to you about what they think needs to be done and what it'll cost to do it, you maybe can't do their job for them, but you can understand if they're correct. You can understand if they're missing something. I've had contractors build railings 2 feet off the ground, which is not law. You can understand a lot of things. So I think your team and your training are everything. And also always having your reserves. Don't be, especially if you're a beginner, if you've got a large portfolio, you can absorb mistakes. If you've got, as one of my bankers said to me on my first deal, I asked him if this deal was a good deal. He said, you can afford it. I said, that's not the point. But make sure you have reserves for maintenance, vacancy management. Have extra cash. Have ways of solving problems, because they will happen. Anyway, that's pretty much what I got.
Steve, thank you as always. And Steve, we'll talk sometime today in regards to that Connecticut submission that you sent over me to take a look at. Okay.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks.
Sounds great. So let's talk about some of the cons of building a real estate portfolio. Like Steve said, liquidity challenges, high initial costs, market sensitivity, management responsibilities. You need to identify the right property management, regulatory and legal risks, and then obviously property specific risks. These are all things you need to keep in mind that could work against you as you build and scale your portfolio, and with a foundation, of course. Dave, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and the thoughts to our discussion this morning, building a foundation in real estate. Dave Ingamy going once. Dave Ingamy going twice. I don't know if Dave knows how to unmic. There you go, Dave.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, good. Hey, everybody. Good to be on with you this morning. My name is Dave Ingamy. I am, for the last decade, I have handled title insurance. I could do title insurance nationally. I also more recently got my property and casualty license, so now I could do homeowners insurance nationally as well. And then most recently, I joined Joe's team, and I am assisting Joe in getting a lot of these deals to closing. So I think an interesting thing that Joe mentioned that I could lend a perspective on is the real estate associations. So from a vendor perspective, over the last decade plus, I see these real estate associations as sort of dying, almost like a dying mall. That's my opinion. I know a lot of real estate agents that are frustrated with them. They're not seeing the value come back, especially since COVID, because all the associations in my area continued to collect the same amount of dues, even during COVID, and there was no value given back. And then there's something that is interesting that I want to throw out there, as you know, from a vendor perspective. So the real estate associations also, I think, are either a little out of touch or a little bit in denial, especially for the vendors, because they are bringing zero value. I've been a part of the organizations for a long time. I've been on committees. I've been pretty heavily involved at certain points over the last 15 years, and I've seen very little come back. And I think they don't do anything to bridge that gap, particularly for the vendors. And I think it perpetuates the sort of the one-sided mentality. There's not a lot of reciprocation, and that I think comes from a lot of these in-house vendors. And I just want to touch on that in case anybody on here is a real estate agent. The in-house vendors, now you're seeing a lot of in-house title agencies, a lot of in-house lenders, and I'm seeing in-house insurance starting up a lot. Well, that's great for the brokers or the people running the office, but what it does, a secondary thing that it does that a lot of people don't think about is it cuts off a lot of your relationships. So in this business, a lot has to do with how many relationships you have, right? So I'm going to give you an example. I had a friend who needed an agent for a $650,000 listing about 4 or 5 months ago. He came to me and asked me to introduce him to an agent. Well, the first 3 agents I would have given him to a year previous, I couldn't because they then had an in-house title agency. And I had to go elsewhere. So they're losing business because the relationships are getting cut off. So that's just a little bit of a perspective that's filtering down to the boards, the real estate associations, because they have a lot of events and they're asking for a lot of money from vendors, but the vendors aren't getting anything back because of the rise in the in-house relationships. And I think the agents and the boards know it, but they're trying to ignore it. But it's not being ignored anymore. Everybody, all the vendors know it, and I think they're dissipating. So hopefully that's an interesting perspective on where all that is.
Dave, you hit it right on the head. I mean, we talk about this all the time. I think there's no value. Like, okay, let me give you an example. So if there's 200 people coming to an event, I'm going to give you a great example. I was asked to be a vendor for an event. There was 200 people coming, maybe 250. They want $1,500. I'm like, well, how much does it cost to attend the event? They're like, $700. I'm like, why wouldn't I just go to the event, work the room for 3 days? I will talk to every single person in that room for $700, and I won't have to worry about people not wanting to come up to my table for $1,500. Okay. Also, the same with these realtor associations. None of them are holding events with any merit. There's production companies popping up everywhere, holding their own events for these areas for these realtors and just eating away at the realtor associations. Any value they once had have no value. I personally think the realtor associations are going to go through a consolidation due to all this NAR lawsuit and economy. I think you'll see less realtor associations over the next 5 years. I think it'll be more state level. I think your MLS is going to consolidate, maybe down to 2 or 3 tops. I think you're going to see a massive consolidation due to AI and just a modernization to the industry. I think you have to weigh out everything now. Anything above $500, any type of $500 participation, you need to know why you're giving $500 and what you're going to get back. Like there was this one organization, they wanted $800 to be a member. I asked them, where is my value when your own board doesn't even want to have a sit down with me on a one-on-one and know who I am and what I do? Why would I give you $8? Might as well $800. And I think that's all coming to light as inflation, cost, transparency. You need to weigh out every single relationship. Like Dave, we joined a group in Delaware County for $150 as a vendor. You and I are both going to be able to attend at any given time. That to me, if we get one deal, $150, that's a drop in the bucket. So
Exactly.
You got to weigh out the cost. I'd rather spend $300 on 10 smaller events, or instead of spending thousands on 2 events a month. You have to have the British Bulldog mentality of the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic War between the British Bulldogs and Spanish Armada. You can't be this big, bulky, spending money type of frenzy. You have to be cost benefit and look at the return on investment. And if you go to an event, you get zero results, it's your own fault if you go back. That's it.
Yeah, and if I could just circle back real quick. So going to the back to the question Joe asked Joe Martella on what's more beneficial now. I have been going to real estate investor meetups fairly regularly over the last couple of years, but I would say really a lot in the last couple of months, especially since joining Joe's team. And the difference is night and day. There's a lot of activity. People are friendly. People are excited. They're open-minded. When you go to the real estate association events, it's doom and gloom. And nobody wants to be around that. And there's very little activity right now. And as I was saying, when you take that little piece of activity and then you're keeping it in your in-house vendors, then there's no networking going on. There's no positivity at all. I've had, just one last point. I want to use an example. There's a real estate agent in my town, and he has a pretty thriving business. He's busy. He would come to every event that I had, eat all the food I took, take all the free CE credits, and knew he would never give me a deal. He knew it from day one. So I shut that down. He stopped being invited, and I actively refer other people when his name comes up. So that's where we're at with the whole thing.
You hit it right in the head, David. Thank you for being here, and look forward to working with you at Lendmark and growing out our platform with so many real estate professionals and investors in 2025. Craig, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a foundation in real estate. Craig Caggiano, going once. There you go.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for the invite and opportunity to talk. Joe and I work together a lot. We do events. We support each other. I'm a realtor that's licensed in the state of New Jersey. And I'm also working with my brother as a mortgage loan officer. But it's great to connect with the people that Joe's connected with, because it puts me in touch with people that have been able to reach during the normal real estate transactions. I met some others that talk about the fix and flip market, and just learning about that area and ways that I can invest in the future. So I appreciate the call out, Joe, and looking forward to hearing more from the other speakers you have today. Thank you.
Hey, Craig, real quick, what's going on 27th in Jersey City, New Jersey? What are you trying to put together on these panels to provide for the attendees?
Right. So on the 27th, I'm going to be doing it's a lunch and learn where I'm trying to attract some agents and others into the room to provide value on how we can work together. I'm with the EXP Realty, and then one of the parts, I'm also looking to grow my team with people that are open-minded and looking for other ways to generate income. And we do these events throughout the state of New Jersey, New York, and then we're going to branch into Philadelphia working with Joe. But the 27th is going to be a lunch and learn. I have several speakers, Joe, there's Joe.
Polidoro.
Yeah. And then there's, we're going to talk about asset-based lending, of course, down payment assistance programs throughout the state of New Jersey. And we'll have title and insurance there as well. So come on out. You're all welcome to attend. And Joe, just let me know how I can share the flyer with the audience, or you can share it with them.
Yeah, I'll get it out. I'll push it out for everybody. So thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Brian, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to building a foundation in real estate. And great seeing you in Rochester this past Thursday.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Morning, Joe. Morning, gang. My name is Brian Guth. I own LG Homes Group up here in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. And really just kind of, I'll hit this from a different perspective in that I'm still a part-time real estate investor, kind of been putting a renewed focus on this the past 2.5 years, and been able to scale from one property up to 11 doors currently with 6 more under contract. So kind of just the ability to kind of scale quickly and kind of hitting this from a new I guess I'll call it a newbie angle because I still have my full-time W-2 job. But really just kind of thinking through the topic and kind of building that foundation. It's really like, what are your goals, right? Do you want to make money or do you want to build wealth? And you may have heard that before. It sounds similar, but I can make money by doing flips, or I can build wealth by long-term holds. So what is my ultimate goal in doing this? And then really piggybacking on some of the RIA groups and the education piece, what really worked well for me was, educating myself via the YouTubes, via the different things that are out there for free, and then taking some of the education to, the real estate meetups. So I can offer something in the conversation, or maybe not even offer something in the conversation, but I can feel more confident in myself and some of the things that going on in kind of discussions, as opposed to trying to drink from the fire hose because all these people are spitting details that I just don't understand. So that's kind of where I came in from the angle of the balance of knowing what my goals are, educating myself on what goals could even exist, meaning what different facets exist. We talked about sub 2 already, talked about fix and flip, fix and hold. Like where do I want to focus? And then having a balance of kind of online self-paced learning with the in-person meetups and speaking to the people that are actually doing it in my community. And that's been working very well for me. With that, I'll pass it back.
Hey, Brian, you know what I noticed most is the person that thought they weren't that experienced owned an average of 2 to 3 properties at the event that we were at on Thursday night. Why is there a different mentality up in Rochester from an experience level? Somebody that doesn't even think they've gotten started and they own 2 to 3 properties. Like why is that the case? Because I met like at least 4 or 5 people that own anywhere from 3 to 10 properties, and they thought they were newer in the business. Like what's the thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are, I think in that RIA you joined, or the RIA you came to, there's a ton of experienced investors in there. So if I'm putting myself up against, someone who has, 300 properties and been doing it for 20 years, like, yeah, I'm inexperienced. If I put myself against the guy who's still looking to buy his first property, yeah, I'll put myself as fairly knowledgeable. So I think it's almost like kind of grading ourselves on a scale, because it is a pretty tight-knit group. And I think maybe it's a little just being humble, and that there's so much experience in this group, or at least some of the key players in the group, that you don't want to sound too big for your britches. At least that's the way I come at it.
Yeah, it was really it was refreshing. And I walked in a room and I met 70 people I never met before. I mean, that to me is like Candyland. You know what I mean? So I was like, as a networker, in my industry, you need to be excited about going to an event where and you don't know anyone. You don't want to be comfortable. And that's what I liked about that event. Everybody was engaging, open to discussion, but it was like a very humbling experience, to be honest with you.
Awesome. Yeah, glad you came. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Brian, as always. Chris, good morning and welcome. Brief overview of who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning, building a foundation in real estate.
Joe, thanks for having me. My name is Chris Caggiano. I'm a realtor in the New York City market. I'm also a mortgage broker, and I'm definitely looking to do more with Joe on the real estate financing side, because Joe streamlines the process, makes it super easy to work with him, and no nonsense. You just go straight to the key points that need to be taken, and you do deals. And highly transacted Joe is, and I'm looking forward to do a lot more with him. But yeah, I'm working with a lot of investors. There's some ground up construction in Jersey City. I have actually 3 or 4 projects going on in Jersey City, working with my investors to getting their capital in place. And I also, through the events that I've attended with Joe, I was fortunate to be introduced to MB Capital as well for additional financing. People that want to pull money out of their 401ks, their investments, and it's just another way to leverage properties. And it's just been amazing since I've been going to the events with Joe. We've been running from Philly to Staten Island, New York, and in between. So looking forward to do more this year with creative financing. Asset-based lending is the way to go for your investors, and definitely I learned a long time ago that you need to purchase these properties in an entity name. But thank you for having me, Joe. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Chris, thank you as always. Great hanging out with Chris and Craig. They are motivated real estate professionals, and I'm really excited about them being in my power team of experts. So I want to thank them. One, now to be involved with the podcast as well as doing live events on a monthly basis. They're very focused. You got to stay focused. You got to focus on the right opportunities. You have to fish in ponds that provide fish. Don't keep going back to an event that doesn't bear any return. Okay? You got to work with people that are going to work together. That is the foundation. Reciprocal relationship in this industry is so more important now than ever before. To our rose amongst the thorns, good morning, Angela. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a foundation in real estate.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Angela Koska, and I own a virtual bookkeeping practice that specializes in folks in the real estate space. So obviously, education, like you've already touched on, really figuring out how to do stuff before you start doing it is super important. Definitely the part that Stephen touched on, I really liked about learning about construction and kind of learning what you're doing so that when you talk to contractors, you have a good understanding. I thought that was a great point to bring out to everybody. I've also done a couple of private money loans as separate from my business. And I will tell you, when you get to the point that you're doing that, really having your ducks in a row and having all your details and all your paperwork is so important. My first experience was not very good. It felt very rushed, and like the person just slapped all the documents together and handed me a pile of stuff, and I didn't feel real good about it. So when you get to that point, making sure you're doing things the right way is a good thing to do. And again, I think Bob touched on having a good team around you. So obviously, the good lawyer, the good accountant, and a good bookkeeper, part of your team who can make sure you're on the straight and narrow, protecting your assets, doing all the things you need to do so that you don't end up in a mess. So thanks. It was a great call this morning, Joe. Appreciate you doing it.
Angela, one question.
Sure.
And again, this is probably a little favored toward you, but I'd love to get the answer. How much more important is bookkeeping than ever before for a real estate investor?
Oh, it is. It is critical. It is so critical. I see people all the time who get themselves upside in deals, which due to not doing homework, not being educated on things they need to be educated on, and knowing if you're making money, if you're not making money, if you're, if you need to raise your rent, having a good property manager who's taking care of stuff for you and helping you make the most out of every property you own. And if you don't have good numbers, you don't know any of those things, so you're just kind of flying blind. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Angela, and thank you for being on here. And Angela and I met at an event where she's actually the only good professional I met at the event. I've never had any follow-up with anybody else. The event was a sell-a-thon. It was a terrible, misleading event, but I got to meet Angela, and we've stayed in touch with each other ever since. I'm not giving the name of the place or the event, but it was just slightly unethical, the event itself. So I feel good that I met one good person out of the event, and that's my return on investment. So thank you, Angela, for sticking by me.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Mr. Felix Buchanan, I hope your voice is back. I've known Felix over 20 years. Gosh, goes back to some crazy times. So, Felix, brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a foundation in real estate.
Grand Rising, everyone. My voice is back after yelling in Houston with my daughter's championship games last weekend. I'm a former real estate agent in Baltimore from 2005 to 2019. I'm a rehab, a wholesaler, investor, and I do some commercial lending. I do work in Houston, Georgia, Florida, Baltimore, the DMV, PA, and the Carolina. To add to the discussion, I think everyone touched on great things. I think that you need to figure out what your niche is. Like Bob and everyone else said, you have to have a legal team so that you know where you're going. These people are properly setting you up for where you're going as far as your attorneys, your CPAs, and otherwise. Education is very important. Doing reading, being on podcasts like these, the RIA meetings. One that I think that people leave behind is finding a mentor that has been involved in the business for years, has been successful. Do your research to vet what mentor that you can have, because they will guide you through that. You won't make as many mistakes as you would have had you just went out here and did it on your own. I think also, obviously, knowing where your funding is coming from, having your exit strategy. If that exit strategy isn't going to be formidable, that it doesn't pan out, what is your pivot from the original exit strategy that you had, which I remember someone saying earlier online, like basically, what are your goals? And if this goal doesn't pan out, what's next? So because everyone pretty much covered majority of everything, those were just my 2 cents and what I could provide. Thanks again, Joe, and everyone else.
Well, Felix, thanks for being here. And I've known Felix since his son was a little kid, and now he's a college student. So we are getting old, and I want to agree with Felix. You need a coach. You need somebody to bounce something off of somebody. I always refer to people for suggestions and advice. I ask questions. Okay. I don't know all the answers. Okay. Because I ask a lot of questions in a personal matter with a lot of people. I think it's important. It allows me to think in different directions by being consulted with I feel people that have, one, integrity, two, good intentions, and three, they're going to talk good about me in third party. Okay. And I'm going to talk good about them in third party. And I think real estate strategy is all about planning and executing investment moves that align with your financial goals. Whether you're looking into long-term holds, STRs, MTRs, fix to flip, fix to rent, multifamily, having a solid foundation is key. Mr. Martella, your final thoughts to this room this morning, building a foundation in real estate.
So good conversation as always, and really good nuggets for people to take away. I think that we covered almost every facet of real estate investing in this forum, and the foundations that you need to build in order to be successful. So, reach out to Joe. He is a guru. He's been around the block. I bounce ideas off of him, not just on financing, but on deals that I'm doing. Really good stuff, Joe, as always.
Joe,
I
thank
look
you.
forward to speaking at your event in March.
I was just going to say, it's going to be getting posted all over. Joe will be making a special appearance at Elite Dealmakers in South Jersey, first Monday in March. If you can make it out, I think it'll be a great discussion. It will be a mastermind setting where we'll have a bunch of different discussions, and we'll definitely get deep into things. You know what I mean? So I want to thank everybody today. I appreciate people's modesty. I'm not really into a bragging session here. I really enjoy just the discussion of the market and what we're doing. I want to thank our sponsors today. I want to thank Mr. Perkins of Perkatech. I want to thank MB Capital, where I'm a referral partner in the unsecured business lines of credit. I'd like to thank Lendmark Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst, and now Dave Ingamy is a loan analyst in my team. Very excited about our growth in 2025. I want to thank Miss Linda Pelagas of Realty 401. She's been a great support mechanism to our podcast and providing a national events and a national publication. And then our new alliance with Elite Dealmakers, where we're going to be in New Jersey and PA. We're in North Jersey, South Jersey, Lehigh Valley, and Philadelphia. And we're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with some unbelievable moderators today. I really appreciate everybody's insight and direction. This is completely unscripted, by the way. This is raw, good content. My quote this morning: reset, refocus, readjust, restart as many times as you need. Just never give up. Have a great week. Take care of yourself. We'll be back here next Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another strong discussion of education, networking, and strategy. I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.